Hello, people. So I'm going to read out something from this book. So here it's talking about a challenge that has been affecting many people in terms of why we get distracted, or we would like to be in a particular place, but something takes us away from the path. Or has us behave a certain way which is not so characteristic. Yeah. So people talk in terms of the sthira sukhasana, or that which has become stably better. And here there's this reference in this book. Okay, it's mirror image. Okay, Upanishads. The Upanishads by Ms Valerie Roebuck. And I will read from the Maitri Upanishad, book 3. They said, Blessed One, if you describe in this way the greatness of the self, what is the other, different one called self that, overcome by the white and black fruits of actions, goes to good and bad wombs, that wanders about to a born below or above, overcome by the dualities? Maitri said, there is another, different one, called the elemental self, which, overcome by the white and black fruits of actions, goes to good and bad wombs, that wanders about to a born below or above, overcome by the dualities. To explain further, the 5 subtle elements are called by the name element, and the 5 coarse elements are called by the name element. Okay. Now, I would need to pause here because the 5 coarse elements are having a citation from another place. It says Tanmatra, yeah, and Mahabhuta. In Sankhya, the coarse and subtle levels of the 5 traditional elements. We are familiar with earth, water, fire, air, spirit. So let's say these 5 are the 5 elements. There are subtler understandings of them, but we are familiar with these and that they have an influence on our make. We also are made from the Agni Tattva, Jala Tattva, Bhumi Tattva, Vayu Tattva, spirit would also be, let's say, Bhuta, yeah, or Avi, or the spirit. We sometimes very spiritedly argue about things, yeah. So our spirit could be affected by other spirits too, yeah. And some people also have alcohol, so that's kind of direct reference. And tea, coffee, they also have an effect on the spirit of the matter, yeah. Now, so to explain further, the 5 subtle elements are called by the name element, and the 5 coarse elements are called by the name element. It's like Sthula Sharira, Sukshma Sharira. So there is the fire, earth, water, what you have, what you can see, and then there's a subtle of them. Yeah. Okay, I call the element. Their coming together is called the body. So when we say a body, there is the Sthula Sharira and the Sukshma Sharira. Okay. So the one who is said to be the self in the body is said to be the elemental self. Okay. So we call ourselves the self. The self is influenced by many things. For example, myself, yourself, their self, themselves. Yeah. Self is also influenced by many happenings from these elements, our own elements and also elements from others. Yeah. Okay. Here there's also a reference. We, the self understood, has just is said to be the body. Okay. So there is a clarification on the matter now. And said to be the elemental self. This self here, in which this self seems to refer to the bhutatmana. Yeah, so that would also be spirit. So you say pancha mahabhuta, they say. But let's consider the bhuta also. Yeah, so it's not just earth, water, fire, air, spirit. Yeah, pancha bhuta. And okay, bhutatman has this immortal self, suggested the higher self, which means, so there is the body formed from the sthula sharira and sukshma sharira. That's the coarse and the subtle. Yeah. And then there is other than that. Yeah. So this is referring to as this immortal self. So in which this self seems to refer to the Bhutatman, has the Bhutatman has the immortal self, suggesting the higher self. So there is a 5 elements, and then there is another which is not of the elements. Okay, that would be the higher self. Yeah, or there are versions to that there, but then we'll come to that. This self, okay, which is the immortal self, higher self, is to that one. Okay, no, the elemental self affected and affecting the elements, 5 elements, earth, water, fire, as spirits. Yeah, is to that one, which is the immortal self, as a drop of the water to the blue lotus on which it rests. There's a further reference here. Clause is added for clarity. Okay, on which it rests. The elemental self, okay, the elemental self is overcome by the strands of nature. Okay, because it, okay, what does that mean is, so there is influence, social influence, media influence. Somebody says something, their idea of truth could affect your idea of truth. And according to how firm it is or how much it is connected to the source. Otherwise, you're like stem cells. Yeah. When the stem cells are not connected to the root from where they come, or the forward and backward, where is it going? Where is it coming from? When that information is not there, it is a bit left for Newton's laws of motion, particle physics. Gets influenced by many, and then there is movements from there consequently. Thermodynamics, particle physics, they all come into application there. Okay. Now, this elemental self is overcome by the strands of nature. Because it is overcome, it falls into utter delusion. Because of this utter delusion, it has not seen him resting in the self, the Lord, the Blessed One, the causer of action, which is the immovable, not moving, not of the elements. So there is an elemental self, and then there is a self that is not of the elements, okay, which is being called here as the Lord, the Blessed One, the causer of action. Delighting in the mass of strands and grown dirty, unsteadfast, fickle, utterly bewildered, full of yearning, distracted, it falls into conceitedness. I am this. This is mine. Thinking like this, it binds itself with itself. Basically a cookie. Yeah. And saying, I'm this. Yeah. Like, or I'm something the cat dragged in. Or I am something that is to be honored and, revered. Yeah. Or I'm this kind of a person. I'm of a particular stature. Yeah. In other words, something, anything, everything, not nothing. Okay. So it not that space for this is where they say drop your identity. And there may be a difficulty in dropping the identity because it's to be recognized that you're affected or influenced by a certain way of either you perceiving yourself or others perceiving you. And not knowing that is how you hold on to and being a cookie. Yeah. And then, for example, even the computer collects cookies, yeah, checks for cookies and then responds according. There could be ads according to it, or there could be, say, through other media, through other social media, you could be getting ads because there is being. So you bounce off of this, and then you're getting, why am I getting these patterns? Because that's not all that you are, but you continue to see certain things. Yeah, that's because you haven't recognized and digested and gone beyond those cookies, those identities. Yeah. Okay. Binds itself with itself like a bird with a net. Overcome, that's like juicy banana. You love this and you're stuck there. Overcome by the fruits that follow on from action, he wanders around. They said, which is he? Maitri told him, it has been said elsewhere. Okay, now this is where I had to do a little bit of research. I will read that bit too. So it says, the fourth. Okay, so there are three strands that influences a person. That would be like, if you consider that we have our own ideas of what is health, wealth, and wisdom. Let's just say. So three visible elements. Yeah. And then there is the fourth, which is not visible. Yeah. That's like, let's say a diamond. It has visible surfaces, and then there is a pointy down, yeah, where you can't see it. That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is you have creation, preservation, destruction, but there's also mystery. Yeah. So we function, we do all our stuff for create, preserve, destroy many things, but there is something we don't know about. And what we don't know about, oftentimes, rules are bruised. Yeah. Because there is rules are world, because there is levels of conscious, unconscious, subconscious, superconscious. Even Johari Window is talking about, I know that I know that I don't know, I don't know that I know, and then I don't know that I don't know. So there is, even in this four quadrants, there is one that I don't know that I don't even know. And then there is levels of I know, three I knows, but there is one that you don't know. Yeah. So in that sense, there is a certain reference here. The fourth, without an element, that means it is not the self of the element. Yeah, it's other than that. Immortal higher self, causer of action. So these are some of the references to this element. Without an element. The fourth, without an element, is inviolable. The stilling of proliferation, graciousness or gracious, without duality. Without stilling of proliferation is like, otherwise you have parallel universes. One small little change, if this, if only, shoulda, woulda, coulda, and then you dream, and then you have so many parallel universes. So there's this movie in Tamil that's called B12, yeah, where they're talking about what the story is about. What happens? The protagonist, he misses the bus by a minute. So the story then moves from what would have happened if he had caught that bus, and what the story was when he didn't catch the bus. So they're showing both the parallel worlds. So in our world, in our ways of thinking, there is this shoulda, woulda, coulda, and what would have happened then. And we live in a little bit of this dream world, then this would have been there, but then this is there, and then go, oh, yeah. But what is actually happening could be this, and we may not be seeing what is happening. And so we could be living in going between wishful thinking and then actual, so we may be kind of daydreaming and not really participating actively in life. Depending on how things are good in what is actually happening in life, you're ongoingly working from there. Or you're in a bit, yeah, between here and there. Now, so stilling of proliferation, where many things that you're working with begins to start just coming together to just one life, yeah? And then you're on it. And then when you're functioning ongoingly from there, what then shows up? So that's like being on the highway. So you have many gullies and local, and then many things you're looking through. And then you could be having information from all of them, but those information may not be collating together to form one whole theory of everything. Of this is how it works, and then sustainably making that better. Your truth, maybe you're wondering about different things, collecting information, and over time, you work from there, or your model of reality. Yeah. And then from there, you connect with different people, bounce off of ideas, and then you see this idea is not entirely true. This is my construct, and this is the truth out there, and this is what I made of it. And then slowly, you begin to, your idea of how you've placed a particular, of how you see a particular person. For example, your father, your mother, your brother, your teachers, or subjects you've studied. You may be having a problem with even God. To slowly things, that is not how really things are. And then slowly they change and the wounds heal or the disharmony heals. And then you begin to see things in a more cohesive manner. Yeah. For that, as you're arriving at the source, let's just call it, we can call it nothing, but so we have conceptualized ideas into things. And then there is nothing is a space that is also quite always there, but then you would have to arrive at that at a it's not just concept, but okay, conceptually too. Annamaya kosha, pranamaya kosha, manonmaya kosha, vijnanamaya kosha, anandamaya kosha, shabda kosha. Because the words that then emerges from there is different once you're clear with that connection with that source like that. When you're sourcing yourself, it's like you have an electrical gadget. When the plug is connected to the power plug, from the circuit from where electricity comes, then the gadget works. Otherwise, you're kind of functioning. It's like life or something like it, but not really on. Life on. The fourth, without an element, is inviolable. The stilling of proliferation, gracious without duality. So when we come to without duality, you could come to singularity, where masculine, feminine, nature, nurture, complementary opposites, yeah? Two, they are not different, but part of the same whole. And then you shouldn't get squint-eyed, like, what are you talking about? Yeah. Two, you're looking this and that, and yeah. Two, other than that, you're just looking straight ahead. Yeah. So, and then that's clear kind. Yeah. So Om is the self, is what they're saying here. My understanding from Mighty Conscience, I'll leave a link. I have to make another construct. I keep referring to this. Okay. Yeah, there's so much of work. Okay, so from Mighty Conscience, Om is like the wholesome O, like big mighty ocean O, yeah? Okay. And then you're all like drops of the water, or drops of an ocean in a drop. Yeah. So that way, the mighty big ocean that we're all on the same planet Earth. We're all part of the same universe. Yeah. Or we live in our own universes, but we call all of this whole construct as universe. We have one idea of universe. It's somewhere out there, or we are all part of a universe. So let's stay with that one. Yeah. So that O and M, as in the market. Yeah. We are all in different, we go to the shop, vegetables, stationery, different things. We buy from the market, we sell into the market, or rather, we talk, even relationships. When we say something, they get to know your world, and then we are enrolling people, yeah, either into a drama or into a project that we can all work together, yeah. So depending on what's the wound or the harmony that's there, accordingly you're enrolling people into doing the right things, or let's come cause trouble, yeah. And then it takes discernment to recognize which one is harmonious and which is disharmonious, yeah. So Om is the self. So the self could be elemental self influenced by the elements from nature, strands of nature, when connected with the other than element self. Yeah, that's when there is discernment of, okay, this is going off path. The one who knows this by self enters the self, the one who knows this. So knowing, so that you're not going back into the not knowing and then deluded, and then what are you talking about? So from the elemental self, once there is better connection with the immortal self or the immovable, inviolable, okay, the higher self, yeah, then there is recognition of, okay, gone this much far. From 0, you've gone to 9, or you've gone to 19 or 20. And then you recognize, okay, back, yeah, back to, we've gone that far, and then to recognize. Recognize. So there is a recognition. Once you recognize that there is, okay, this is 5, this is 9, this is, yeah. So then you can recognize to, okay, from ground zero, this far, yeah. Or this happens when there is these kinds of influences. So I could have, oh, look at me behaving like a baby again. Or look at me behaving like a goddess. Yeah. Or like, oh, I know. Yeah. And I'm making you like, oh, you guys still figure that out. But it's with recognition that you recognize how far you've gone and what needs to be done then, so that those course correction, or you can speak consistent with making the matters clear. While we all go through different stages of development, it's like a Milky Way galaxy having many arms. We are in the Orion arm. So one arm has, we've thought in terms of one pathway, there are others also influencing, yeah? So that's like the octopus, has many limbs. And so it takes something to pay attention to all these different limbs. That is also a human being. We are like Ravanas. We have at least, at least 10 concerns, because 10 is the biggest number at least. Yeah. We at least have 10 things on our heads, yeah, or in our lifestyles and what we do. We may not have noted it down as, there are 10 areas in your life or 10 things you're handling at the same time, in one way or the other. Yeah. And your distraction could be how well you're handling them, or what's a gravitas, what is more cooking in one area versus the other. Yeah. And then we'll get to know what is cooking there in what you're creating next, or what you're talking about, or yeah, you eat food, and then one or the other thing is you like one food particularly than the other, because that particular element or something is cooking in that area of interest. You come with, yeah, so some people like different subjects. So how do people take shape? So this is something to pay attention to. So there is this sentence, Om, gods, may we hear good fortune with our ears. You, worthy of sacrifice, may we see good fortune with our eyes. Having praised you with bodies strong of limb, may we attain lifelong what is ordained by the gods. May Indra of great swiftness, may Pushan, the all-knowing, may Tarkshya, Aristanemi, I've got to get my pronunciation right, may Brihaspati ordain well-being for us. Om, peace, peace, peace. So peace in the pot, 9 days old. When you're contemplating these terms, the peace settles. You understand what is peace. Once the kleshas, the disharmony, then comes back to harmony. What has been disharmonious comes back to harmony. Then over time, peace in the pot, 9 days old, as you contemplate on the matter. So I will make another video on the fire element. So the cooking is happening nicely. Yeah. So then there is discernment, and fine peace is forming over time. Yeah. Thank you so much for your kind interest. Good day.